I'd like to welcome you back again to our video blog series. This is number 4 for Hannah Moor. Hannah's owned by Jane Dudinsky again. And here in the background, we've got some cross-country schooling. This is our lead up to the Virginia Horse Trials, which is in the middle of May. And you can see the first jump there being a ditch. A lot of times we'll just canter them the first couple times, but then sort of roll back all the way up to the point that we can just walk up and over. And as you can see, maybe you can't really quite see, the front of that is a whale shape, a fish shape to it. It has a nice drop landing.
It doesn't take many.
So just trying to introduce her to as much as we can in a quiet setting to help gain confidence. So Virginia is a really unique opportunity. They have a young event horse qualifier and the normal event working together on the same weekend, and we generally try to actually do both. So the YEH jumping phase, which we're watching here, is run on the Friday or the Thursday, and then the Friday Saturday is the actual event. This was completely uncommon. Her flat work was actually quite good, but the jumping phase, honestly, I don't really have a great answer for you. Generally speaking, if she were ever to touch a rail, she would respond by over jumping and being super careful at the next. And frankly, I think we had 4 of the 6 jumps down in the show jumping phase. Cross country did definitely get better, but anything, as we see sometimes with baby horses, there's going to be times that it's not perfect. But as you can see through the cross country portion, she was quite confident and jumping in a much better style and shape. From previous blogs that we would have posted earlier, you can see the tendency for her to get a little bit quick at the fence still remains, but I think in general she's getting much better about just maintaining the same tempo from the front side to the back. And in general, I try to evaluate the success. The fact that they jump the jump is a given, but really what is the quality of the canter on the back side of the fence? And if you can land in the same type of canter in the same conditions as you had on the front, I think you'd say that's a win. So she's getting certainly better and better. She's got the right attitude for it, super brave. We got a little wiggle right before the water, but she's very willing, and she's always looking to please and to figure out what's being asked. So the end of the jumping phase here, you've got the water and then this coupe, and then the gallop phase comes straight at us up the hill. I think it's a unique opportunity. Again, at Virginia, there's a lot of terrain to deal with, and so for the young horses, I think they do learn a whole lot by coming here. Just got a nice, light, loose gallop there, which is quite good. So now on the next day, we've got the beginning of the beginner novice. This will probably serve as her last beginner novice. I think our next outing will end up bumping up to novice. But her flat work and really it runs in the same through the jumping, as well as she is super sensitive, not necessarily in a hot way that she's going to jig or get worried, but she is always looking to anticipate and do the whatever you're thinking about next. She's trying to be one step ahead, which can be a little challenging at times, looking to try to just keep a very steady, consistent tempo. And I think we're getting far better. If you look back at that first test that we had at Paradise, there was a number of times in the trot that she did break and sort of fall apart, be it lost her balance and got a bit quick or wiggly or whatever it might be. And I think you can see here certainly a far more consistent. In the canter, canter's probably for her, I would say, the trickiest of the 3 gates. Not in her ability or power, but frankly, she's got a lot of power and it goes all places at all times, or wants to be. So we're just trying to keep everything going in one same direction in a quiet manner. But I think this is a big step in the right direction. Probably was on the borderline of getting a bit tired leading up to the dressage here. She did do the whole YH the day before, and I think probably was on her just a hair too long. And I think our normal warm-up for the babies is a half an hour before the test I would tend to hop on. But here you can see when she does get tired, she starts to get a little bit low, and so we're just on the edge. But in the end, again, the fact that she was as grounded and as quiet as she was, I was quite happy with it. So I figured it'd be best to skip ahead to the cross-country phase, or the cross-country phase of the horse trial. And it was a really great opportunity coming back for the second day, because I think she was just far more settled and took everything a bit easier and just more confidently the second time out. And as you can see here, the hills, like we were talking about, I think it's a very good opportunity for the babies to figure out exactly how to be comfortable there. Unfortunately, where we are in Aiken at the moment is quite flat, and they do get there's a couple little slopes, but really nothing that would compare to Virginia here. So after the water complex, there's a combination up at the top of the hill that we're not really going to be able to see, and wrap around the trees and head back down to a table that we can see here. And going back to what we had talked about before, looking to evaluate the quality of the jump by the canter that we have on the backside, I think we can see in this cross country she's just far more settled and just finds everything just quite a bit easier to maintain the same tempo. And so that's exactly what I'd be looking for at this stage. We have got just a couple more jumps here to go in the cross country. Got a ramp down to the ditch and then a handful on the way out to the finish. But she's just super quiet, confident, finds it quite easy, and made mention of it earlier, but I think our next outing we're just going to bump up to novice, because there's really not a whole lot more you'd want to ask of her. So back to, or onto show jumping. The show jumping, I think, was a bit challenging because it's a smaller arena, so things do come up pretty quickly, and on the surface I would say that it would be work against her, being that again we're looking for everything just to come up really quietly and consistent and slow. But I think she responded really well and much better off for the experience gained this weekend. Throughout the entire course, just looking for a consistent tempo. She's quite a good athlete, so the actual jumping effort really isn't all that challenging for her. But she comes home with a clear here, finished on her dressage score, and I think she finished in 5th place. So it was a really good weekend and set her up really well for the future. In the YH, she did end up on a 72, so we're going to have one more qualifier. Not exactly sure of the location. I think for finals we need 270s or 175. And so I would expect, really, if we didn't have the trouble we did in the jumping phase, the initial qualifying score just wouldn't be much of a challenge. So we got one more shot at it, but it shouldn't be an issue for her. So just check back in a month's time for our next installment.